Yeah, I think DraftKings is an interesting one on the longer term basis. Shorter term, it's a little bit concerning right now, and I'm going to show you why, right? So if we flip over to the chart here, what we can see is that if you take this high from 2022 and connect it to this highest point, we actually just slammed into resistance here just underneath 39. So what I would be
Okay.
looking for here is some sort of pullback and consolidation, maybe back to about 35. And then what you do is you say, okay, well, now do I like it as a long term entry price? And to do that, what we want to do is we want to go to a larger time frame. And I would say, yeah, it looks interesting. I would say there's decent upside to 42 after that pullback and potentially even retesting this high over here. So I think I like it as a longer term play, meaning that, if your horizon is 1, 2, 3 years out, in the short term as an entry, I probably would be a little careful here. It has gone on quite a run just in the last, 3 weeks or so, from about $25 to 38. So I'd stay on the sidelines till we get some sort of pullback first. I was just gonna add in is I think that's where the long-term play comes in, is that you're right, more people will get into sports betting. Sports is
Hmm.
continuing to be a huge environment. So the question is, right now after the run, it's saying, okay, maybe I don't chase it at these levels, but on a pullback, that's where you want to start potentially getting
Right.
involved.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of transition a bit here into crypto, get into some of the leaders that have been really flying up the charts over the last couple of weeks. I think a lot of people have looked at this and said, hey, are we in the bull run? Is this it? In Gareth's opinion, all right, we're gonna probably clip this, Gareth. So here it is. In Gareth's
Okay.
opinion, are we in the bull run?
So you're in a mini bull run. There's no doubt about it, right? So we've seen altcoins. There have been certain altcoins that have gone up 200 to 300% that are big names like Solana, Avalanche. All right. I mean, we've seen these type of moves.
Mhm.
Bitcoin has been generally trending up for the last year plus at this point. So yes, you are in a run, a bull run. The question is, when people say bull run, they automatically assume new all time highs, and I'm a little
Right.
skeptical on that at this stage. And understanding that you're still going to get pullbacks. But
Yeah.
honestly, I will be looking to short it. I will short into that and
Interesting.
wait to buy once it pulls back.
And I'll compare that when we get over to Bitcoin in a minute, because we've got some other analysts out there that are kind of pointing in that direction. I want to jump back to Matic, okay? And Matic, of course, if
Mhm.
you go back here and look at this from mid-October to where we're actually trading, and this is after we've seen a bit of a soften in the market, down up 63%, but down, of course, right now on the week. When you look at Polygon and Matic in general, what are your thoughts on this token? And could we expect some more long-term potential here for Matic as a whole?
Yeah, so Matic to me, and I'll jump my chart up on the screen here, is so what we've actually done is we've had a nice move up into resistance, though. And again, I want to show you where these lines come from. So you take this bullish run and you have the pivot low and the pivot low and this pivot low and then this pivot high. That's really where we went into. And you also take these lows and you stretch them through. And it's amazing how charts work like this. But the low here to the low here to the low here, and then it happens to be the high here. Yeah, so what we can see here is that we basically have what's called a wedge pattern building, and wedge pattern is an upsloping trend line here, and you have your flat top, which right here, and then just a couple days ago we hit that the day before we
Hmm.
hit the low end. So as a wedge pattern tightens, right, as we get over here, it's going to eventually force price out of this range, and generally you get a big move outside of that range. So I would continue to remain bullish on Bitcoin here as long as you don't start trading below this lower trend line. As long as you stay in here, I would remain bullish. And I think, again, whether it's into year end or January, a spot ETF is coming at least one, and you'll get that at least one sort of surge to the upside. So I like the price action here. I think, again, as long as it holds this level, which is right now around 36,000 or 35.5, you stay bullish on it and you can stay long. Yeah, so I think the key with Ethereum is in looking at the charts here is that so we did just run up and hit that double top, right? The double top that we hit back
Hmm.
in April. So that reminds me very much of what Bitcoin did. If we flip back to the Bitcoin chart, that was very similar to what we did here, and then we hit that double top on Bitcoin here before backing off. So to see that pullback in Ethereum is basically it's almost like looking at history of Bitcoin of what happened, right? And eventually we did come up and break through that level. So I think with Ethereum, you're looking at the same situation, right? So we've hit the double top here, right over here. Now we're pulling back. We may go a little bit lower, but ultimately you buy that pullback expecting eventually that breakout on Ethereum.
So this would be another token that you could look at, kind of a stair-stepping dollar cost average into lower spins. That takes a lot of
Exactly.
that takes a lot of convincing, to some investors as they watch that chart
I know.
continue to fall down. So it's a tough one. But hey,
I
listen,
know. And
that's where
the one thing I do want to mention too is like, I'm talking relatively bullishly on crypto, but I do want to just mention that there is still one small risk that crypto could have a big dump out. And that would be if the equity markets, in my opinion, were to see a major, major collapse, like 50,
yeah,
60%. Let's say we go into a tailspin, inflation still is slightly elevated, and we see the Fed unable to print our way out of those scenarios and the economy goes into the pits. I think he's still anticipating mid to late year, but I do think that we have to see how quickly the data kind of spirals. If you look historically, like even in 2007 going into 2008, it started very slowly and then the acceleration was intense. And I think
right.
that's the one caveat where if we start to see these economic numbers really fall off a cliff, then you could all of a sudden be expecting a rate cut by March even. So you're seeing, all these price cuts in automobiles. We're seeing that, you're seeing all the Teslas, they're cutting price. They understand that not only is there a war, but people are starting to have a harder time affording some of these goods. And that eventually should trail us into some sort of recession. The question is how bad of a recession.
Yeah. We're going to get hit two more tokens here, Gareth. One, of course, is going to be Solana and then also Render. Solana achieves new yearly highs, 17% surge now. Kathy Wood is out there,
Mhm.
tooting Solana's horn now. So, I mean, she's been an ETH lover, and now she's in the Solana camp here. Is she hedging her bet? What's going on here? We've seen some pretty crazy charts with Solana. Where do you see this one going?
Down into this range where it was consolidating. And then the question at that point is, does it get its next leg up where it can go back to $80? I will show you this line here. So if we look at this, right, these were these previous lows of this kind of first initial dip. That'll be a target price at around $80 that at some point I do think it tests. Yeah, I mean, token prices had to move up, and if we flip over to it here, I mean, it's had a good move off of the lows from about $1.30 now and touching and getting above $3. I like this consolidation right in here. This is what you really want in a chart, and because it essentially digests the recent move, and then you can see it having another push up. Overall, it looks to me like just looking at the chart that you've hit a little resistance right here, right? So if we take this pivot point right back here and we draw our trend line across, that's kind of right where it's stalled out here. But again, anytime you're dealing with cloud computing and those type of things, that if this is done right, this could have eventual quite a move continued up in its
Yeah.
chart. So I would just say right now, understand resistance is around 330. If it can bust through 330, your next level is probably around 420. That's only
Yep.
about a 50% move up. And it surely did hit resistance here, but it's now consolidating. So, at some point, the question is, does this have a bigger run to it that could match a Solana, an Avalanche, or some of these other coins? And so it's just one I'm keeping on my radar. I want to kind of watch this consolidation. If it really starts to break north of 38 and 39 cents, I think that's where you could hop on board for a bigger move to the upside.